HR.
Who is HR? Well, he's a lot of things, but number one, he's the best vocalist ever.
I can remember the band would come out and he would just come strutting on stage and just grab the mic and say, "Are you ready?"
The message behind the lyrics, spiritual revolution, consciousness, positive mental attitude, that's the creator.
Nobody sounded like him. Nobody moved like him. Guy was stage diving off the monitor cabinets into the audience. Just an explosion.
We're watching a show, and he does a backflip, and he lands exactly at the end of the song, and it was like game over.
That's an it thing that not many people have, that rock star it factor, and he so had it.
He's channeling something more raw and more powerful than any of us could ever imagine.
There was a time where he seemed as though he wasn't really interested in music anymore, and he went into the spiritual world.
Unfortunately, something happened to him, and he slipped a gear, and he's not the person he used to be, and I feel bad.
Something happened to HR. Something happened to Joseph. Something happened somewhere.
Again, listen, this is very important. I have been getting some violent headaches every half an hour to an hour for about a week and 2 weeks now, and it's been just overbearing, and I have to do something about it. So I'm going to have to go into the hospital. So that's what's going on with me right now. So in case you didn't know, that's what's been going on. And I had to let you know. I do have to tell you the truth about the matter, because it's just getting too painful. I can't tolerate it, you know? And I got to get it fixed. Got to get it looked at and properly diagnosed, because I can't tolerate it anymore. It's just too painful. It just hurts me too much. And every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every single day. So you see what I'm up against. You see what I'm going through.
I was born on February 11, 1956, and I was given the name Mr. Paul D. Hudson. Well, my father was an Air Force pilot. He came from the city of Alabama, Phoenix City, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, very close towns.
Yeah, my mom's from Jamaica. My dad met my mother in England. And Joseph was born in Liverpool. And I guess they had me when we came back to the States in D.C.
My dad had to do some shuffling. He took my mom, went to Jamaica. We stayed in a place called Kingston.
Yeah, we were in Jamaica for a little bit, and my mom and dad left us over there for a little bit, or they came back to the States to do something, but I think we did some schooling in Jamaica, and I remember the teacher hitting my ass on the hand and shit with a ruler for some reason or the other. I don't remember, man. We were kids, you know?
I wanted to stay in Jamaica. My mother said, okay, you want to stay? I'm leaving you then, and I'll come back maybe another day. I thought she was just joking around. I did, but man, she didn't come back for almost a year, and my sweet little heart was broken. Around first grade, we went to Waikiki.
As kids, growing up over there, it was crucial. We learned to skateboard over there, man. So we were skateboarding before all these like prominent cats that are big skaters now are skateboarding and sand surfing, you know, on the beach. So that was a really cool childhood, you know.
Well, I used to build surfboards and skateboards. My daddy showed me. He taught me how to make these water boards, and I would make it by the dozen. Me and my brother would throw it on top of the water. You know, I got the idea from watching these. My dad would sit at the beach sometimes, and we'd watch these surfers surf.
HR and I started doing playing some music back then. We were like in this talent thing, man. And he was playing guitar and I was playing like on a snare drum. We were playing some, I think, Hang On Snoopy or something like that, you know?
Hang on, Snoopy, Snoopy, hang on.
We would practice all day, and every evening time when my dad came home, he would invite us. He'd say, come on down, children, and play us some music. Oh, I'd play the ukulele, and my brother would play his drums. Israelite.
Get up in the morning, slaving for bread, sir, so that every mouth can be fed. Oh, Israelite.
After a while, we came back to California for a little bit and stayed with some relatives. And then we went to Alabama and stayed with my grandparents. No, and then I forgot about Texas. We lived in Texas too, in Abilene for a couple of years. And he was playing football on the football team, man. We used to call him the Gnat, because he was a running back and shit. That shit was a trip. We lived in New York too, man. And we were in Queens for a little bit, then the Bronx. And I think it was in Queens that we were in school, but he was on the swim team, and the coach wanted him to stay because he wanted him to go into the Olympics. Man, dude's a serious diver too, man. He was doing gainers and backflips and the whole carrying on off the diving board. So the coach wanted him to practice and try to make the Olympic team for that area and whatnot. But my mom said no, because we were moving down to DC, Maryland.
And while we were in DC, we relocated to Bonneview Village. Boy, Bonneview was a trip for me because it was my first time I had actually been away from government children. And I went around service people. And I spoke differently, I looked different, and I didn't talk. As a youngster, I was very withdrawn. Very withdrawn. I didn't talk to people at all. Anyway, to make a long story short, we lived in Addison Road, went to Central High School.
Joe was a serious athlete, man. You know, he was a serious pole vaulter and track star. He got a letter, man, in pole vaulting. He was Don Juan back then, man, with the chicks and carrying on. We were working and he bought a Camaro, you know? And the Camaro was fast as hell. Gary used to be in junior high school with me, right? And we were in the same classes, but Gary was always in a band. And we would always kind of go into some of Gary's gigs, because both him and Gary were actually gonna go to college, man. They were like pre-med. They were gonna try to be doctors and carrying on, you know? But we were always going to concerts and listening to music, man, so we decided that we wanted to go the musical route. And we were always, you know, trying to find the bass player, because HR, he was playing guitar and singing, but primarily we wanted to be the lead singer, right? So that's where Daryl came into play, and I introduced him to play bass in the Bad Brains. We were all kind of like into progressive jazz, like Return to Forever and Weather Report and cats like that.
I was given a book by my father called Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill. Mr. Napoleon Hill had tipped me off, and he said, whatever you do, remember the Bible, that philosophy of Christ.
The philosophy, in essence, man, was really about God, you know, about the Lord, but it also was a thing where you have to make a plan and you have to visualize this plan. But it was all about keeping a positive mental attitude, you know? But you have to focus on your plan and try not to deter from that.
And having something to believe in is important. If you believe, you can, anything the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Me and Daryl and Gary and Earl had met early in life, and I just kept on running into them, and we wanted to play music.
And so that's where Sid came in, and Sid was a friend of Daryl's, and he introduced us to this band called the Dead Boys. So we was like, hell yeah, man. So we want to try to do some of that stuff, right? So we started to play punk rock.
Don't get what you may say, we got that attitude. Don't get what you may do, we got that attitude. We got that beat.
And I remember really clearly seeing like these black punk rock guys, and they were phenomenal. Like we just were like, whoa, all right. Like these guys are from here?
They're loud and they were accurate, and then they were just unbelievably fast. And HR's singing in particular, that's all people could talk about.
This dude was walking around on some punk shit, but he wasn't no punk, not like that. You know what I'm saying? If you went at him, oh, he'd knock your motherfucking teeth out your mouth. Trust and believe me. Oh yeah, he would get the work in. That was my man. He would definitely get the work in on your ass.
Well, I think back in the day, man, HR used to have a staff and used to walk with a rod, you know? So HR meant hunting rod. Used to walk around with a staff.
Well, I think the priorities and intention were to really be enthusiastic and to be able to perform at an intensity and a level that the audience would enjoy themselves immensely.
He took a hit of acid before a lot of those shows, and he got pretty high, and I think it helped him probably with the intensity, the emotional intensity that he liked to get into.
Shit, we was all eating acid back there, man. You know, everybody was getting high back then, though, man. You know what I'm saying?
I remember one day we were sitting on a rooftop. He told me that he was never going to take LSD again, that it wasn't right for his chosen religion.
When I first met HR, short hair, choir boy face, thin, full of PMA, and all full of goodness and light. And within a year and a half, he was falling under the influence of the Rastafarians. for better or for worse.
Gary, Daryl, Earl invited me to the concert and asked me if I would like to go see Bob Marley and the Wailers.
That was the shit, man. I mean, the Capitol Center is all concrete, and you can feel the bass rumbling through the freaking concrete, man. And it was just all mystical when Bob came on, man.
Every man got the right to decide his own destiny.
And I couldn't believe Bob Marley was playing that, and it was the first time I had been exposed to a Rastafarian, and I was just overwhelmed, and after that my life was changed. I really enjoyed it.
We always went to church as kids, and so we always knew who the true and living God is, Jesus still, you know? And just through, you know, meeting certain brethren and being conscious of certain things and knowing where certain history lies that, you know, we came to knowing about Rosta.
It's what was happening at that time in the world. It was Rasta time, you know what I mean?
When he got into the reggae thing, man, he used to stroll down St. Mark's Place with a staff, but he was like cocksure and positive and focused, you know? So when he talked to you, he was engaging, and he looked you in the eye, and you know, you were talking to HR, and he was like, yeah, strong, power, and healthy, and fucking, and just badass.
A lot of times we'd psych ourselves out, and I wouldn't talk for months on end. I wouldn't say anything. I'd just go and meditate and read the Bible. And then the night of the show, we just burst and let it all out like that.
He was what became that whole scene. The way that he took Doc and Daryl and Earl's music, how he moved became the way the whole scene fucking moved.
I think the HR probably said, mash it up. The New York kids just heard mosh it up. So their dancing became moshing.
The music was so powerful, it drove you to do that. We were definitely moshing it up, that's for sure.
And that Raw cassette, I would say that's the fucking legacy. What happened when that shit hit the street? It was just, you know, I saw the electric just fucking, just like when you see those maps and something spreads all over the country, that's what happened.
They exploded, they were suddenly there. And the whole thing was really cool, really quite magical.
Yep, my first cassette was Banned in D.C. Banned in D.C. by the Bad Brains.
He created, with Bad Brains, a kind of spiritual anarchy, and it was literally a religious experience.
It wasn't just the physical, it was the spiritual too. You know, that's where the real energy comes from, is the soul, and he traveled with such a conviction spiritually to his beliefs and lived it. He wasn't just talking shit, he was living it. He was getting up every day and meditating and reading the Bible and just living the life.
I had gotten fairly close to getting the band signed at Elektra. The A&R guy, Tom Zutot, a really wonderful guy. He signed a lot of good bands. And HR basically kind of didn't trust him or something, and you know, kind of gave him this whole, like, gave him really a rough vibe about messing with Rosta. After the meeting, Tom turned to me and said, "Anthony, I'm not sure, but did I just get my life threatened for trying to sign this band?"
Me and Joe, we lived in New York from January of '83 till August of '83. He became a member of the 12 Tribes of Israel, you know, which is a Rastafarian discipline.
In the 12 tribes of Israel, that really falls under your birth month, you know.
And people who are born in the month of February, that's the month of Joseph. Bob Marley was also a Joseph.
And everybody, in essence, has certain attributes that fall under those certain tribes. And those cats are visionaries, man, you know? They have dreams that come to truth.
And as the scriptures say, Joseph had a coat of many colors, but that's a metaphor. That basically means Joseph had many different personalities and dimensions of consciousness. So that's where the name Joseph comes from.
And as I tell you, Joseph was a brother where him get captivated when we met him.
Yes, Russ Michael. One love. Thank you very much. That was beautiful. One heart. Wadada.
But deep within him own conscious thought was that Joseph, that love for everybody. He was always seeking the heights of where love really is all about.
Black and white, we come to life.
While a lot of people were sleeping, it was time to wake up, you know, and I could either sleep my life away or go out there and do something about it.
They have friends, and that's where they would have to be. It would have to be considered that, you know, other creative people like Rick was a creative person who was willing to let them use his studio. He wanted them to come and record a record in Boston. So it happened because he made it possible for it to happen, and they were at a point when they had enough material to record an album. That became Rock for Life. I mean, before the record was even released, HR wanted to know where his money was.
We were doing a lot of freaking touring, man, you know, flying around on planes and coming back, and there'd be no freaking money, you know? So, like, where was the fucking money?
This was the thing that was so confusing to me. It's like that HR thought that there was money around, where the deal actually didn't get done. He knew the deal didn't get done. He sank the deal.
HR was the one who said that he didn't want to play any more punk rock. He just wanted to do the reggae thing. The more he read his Bible and the more he kept company around other Rastas, you know, he just felt the need to only play jazz music.
He had people influencing him that made him believe that he had to be on his own, that he didn't trust the people he was working with. He didn't trust me.
You know, HR said he had enough of that shit, so he split, went back down to DC. I stayed in New York, and Daryl and Gary wanted to try to do something else. So I went back down to DC, and that's how Human Rights started.
Although the brains did exist, Human Rights was brand new. It was a new style, new technique. I wanted to kind of venture off and just give it a try and be able to use the styles and the techniques that I learned from reggae and apply it to my music. And so that's what I did.
And so me and Joe started Human Rights and started playing reggae. You know, I got some cats together and started to get that music together.
The first incarnation of the HR band was David Byers on guitar, Earl Hudson on drums, HR on vocals. On second guitar was David Jordan and myself on bass. That was the Washington, D.C. version of the HR band. We rehearsed 4 to 5 times a week.
While we rehearsed the music and try to get it with no mistakes, Joe just sit there writing down with a pad. And then he write the lyrics while we rehearsing the music. And then by the time we can play the music without making too many mistakes, he done wrote them lyrics.
The HR band went through growth as far as numbers. We first recorded with maybe 5, then we would have 6, 8 players, depending on the show. He had a great outreach and I believe sparked a kind of collective creativity, brought people together, let's say.
At the same time, he wanted to do an all-reggae project, which became the Zion Train Band.
It was my idea to have a group called Zion Train, with me and Joe as the front man. Both of us co-wrote most of the songs for Zion Train.
HR was our leader. He was extremely militant at the time. He was focused. He knew who he was, where he was going, where he wanted to take his band.
He moved into this 3-level house. All the roommates were basically musicians, you know.
HR lived there, and he had the smallest room in the whole house. And it had a bed in there and a little round table, and there was just his Bible there. And there was times I'd walk by there and I'd hear crying, like he was going through some sort of torment and changes, and sometimes I'd hear him like talking to himself. I always thought he was praying aloud. He was always, breaking bread, as we said back then.
So there's this offer to play this show in New York, Rock Hotel. It was just a matter of a couple of phone calls. You want to do this? Okay, HR wants to do it. You want to do it? Okay, we'll do it. They got together, they rehearsed, and basically their rehearsal for that show was writing the record Eye Against Eye. Most of that record was composed in preparation for that show. So when they got on stage and played those shows, it was like Bad Brains are back.
We don't need no violence, no! Just follow us right. Some peace and love. We don't want no violence, no! Just follow us right.
Well, Ron St. Germain wanted to produce Eye Against Eye.
He told me, he says, man, we got to get these vocals because I got to go to jail tomorrow. It's like, what? What? Now you're telling me?
I had been doing a little flatfoot hustling and shuffling and whatnot. And certain individuals wanted this and wanted that, and I was there at the time to facilitate the requests.
So I went to pick Joe up because he was out there working. We came to a red light. Let's get ready to make a left turn. All of a sudden, the lights of the police came on, and they went right under his seat. Right under his seat, right, and found the con. Then we went to court, and the motherfuckers lied and said they found 3 nickel bags in between the emergency brakes. It was my car, so that's why I had to go to jail. But primarily, he caught the beef for that. My dad was a correctional captain. He was a captain, a correctional officer in D.C. And so 2 of his sons were in jail, and that was pretty messed up.
So he's in the D.C. lockup, and we got it set up so that he could call me on a specific day and time, and that he would be able to sing this song over the phone to New York.
Yeah, it's called Sacred Love. The first time it's ever been done. So I'm laughing because I found it rather bizarre. But it wasn't my idea. It was Ron's idea.
That was a significant record, the Eye Against Eye record. That was a kind of a real shift and another, like, I feel like hugely influential record.
The vocals on Eye Against Eye, all of a sudden, the curtain is pulled back and HR isn't like this screaming whirly dervish ball of energy. He can actually like really sing, like really sing.
He was the king, and those guys brought the energy to that genre and defined it.
They played a show at 1018. It was the New Music Seminars, you know, like the big show that year in 1987. Because it's a pretty big club. 1018 was 3,500, 4,000 people, something like that. It was pretty, and it was packed. They played a great set. It's a great set.
I think there was a bidding war going around trying to get the Bad Brains to sign, and I think I heard something like Chris Blackwell wanted HR to play Bob in a movie, you know, but it never came to be.
That never got, I mean, if that was an idea, I think that we were trying to get the band signed first, before anything else. I mean, we were gonna open for U2, because U2 had just released Joshua Tree, or was about to release Joshua Tree. So it was gonna be U2, Joshua Tree, and Bad Brains, wherever that record would have been, which would have been Quickness, I guess. Would have been Quickness. And, but it didn't happen. The HR wouldn't sign. He didn't trust Chris at all.
We're not really gonna say we were, you know, superstars or the next best thing, trendsetters or posers. We didn't want to be posers, so a lot of times at that time I wouldn't do interviews, and neither would I sign record deals.
He's the lead singer, and, you know, if he doesn't want to do it, then we can't really do that anymore, you know? And if he wants to play reggae, and if everybody else in the band wants to back him doing that, then so be it. But if not, you'll do what you want to do, you know? Or do your own thing.
Yes, the real wealth is inside. Hey, yo, because you can't sell your soul. It must be based upon a spiritual foundation.
Yes, we are the new generation, the dawning of his age. We know that this is the truth, even though you come with your rage.
And so reggae was more a settling music for the youths. He was saying that if I am this pivotal person, if I am this person that people are looking to, and I'm speaking to them through the music, then I don't want them to be crashing their heads or coming up with blood on their face, and, you know, I want them to be taking your music to settle their mind. You understand?
That's really what we want to say. One love, we want it today.
We were touring Europe then and was creating, you know, constantly.
This was a pretty low-key tour. We were playing all reggae. It wasn't a rock tour.
Bad Brains at the time were on Caroline Records and about to release, you know, Quickness, and the highly anticipated record for that band. And there was always a lot of different controversy between if HR is going to be involved in it and how long it's going to be around.
It was at that point then that we started kind of planning or you know, trying to figure out how to get
HR in the studio.
He was never desperate. He was just ready to tell Kelly, yeah, I'd like to do that. Okay, let's do that. And so he came, and it took him 24 hours to write the lyrics to the whole album, which had pretty much been recorded already. Went on tour. He thought this crew member had said something about him, or was saying something about him, so he had some kind of paranoid reaction to something that was definitely not happening. Jumped across and started a physical fight with this crew character.
Nobody could depend on him. He was always the one. He was the one that was always quitting and going off and leaving the band, and he's always been the wild card, man. He's just so independable.
HR was beginning to be somewhat delusional, I think. He was just different.
I think he wanted to focus more on drum music, you know, on playing reggae music, you know. I think he was done with the aggressive, violent punk rock stuff. You know, I think that phase of his life was over.
We were charged when we came back. Literally charged, you know?
It all meant something. The interaction with the audience, it was a lyric in and of itself. It was music in and of itself.
It's more like he is just a free spirit and the literal power vocally. He's probably one of the strongest vocalists I've ever heard sing.
He is a musician and an artist, but he was looking for a vehicle that he could express his vision, his concepts.
For us, it was a challenge and it was a test. And sometimes I'd wake up penniless and not know where I was going to get some food to eat.
I think he was living on the streets for a time. I think he was homeless for a time, you know, going through his struggles.
And HR, you know, his homelessness was mirrored by many of the people in our particular crew. You know, people lived on the road, people lived in squats, people lived in vans, people died, people went to jail. You know, I feel it was partly this idea of not wanting to be a sellout.
Sometimes when we flew back to the US or wherever we were, he was still out there doing other shows, other bands, you know, cameos with different other bands and stuff like that.
Joseph called me, said he was coming to the West Coast without his band to do a series of shows on the West Coast, and would we be the backup band? When he showed up, we went straight into the studio and started rehearsing. I think he might have been a little surprised at how easy it was. He just needed to sing.
Like inspiration was at the time too, because as Rasta youth's growing, you know, very influenced with the messages that the Bible was teaching us and what HR was teaching us through his music.
Well, it's been really a serious working with you, you know? What I'd like to know is, not if you're in the big time now. That's true. Done some gigs, too. I mean, I owe it all to HR from that, babe. I really do. No, you don't. Well, you're the one with the bottle in my face. now that you hit the big time, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I hit the big time when you got into town. Now listen.
But it started getting worse. He wasn't showing up, like literally no shows. But there was something else going on.
HR was around. He was playing in San Pedro, I think, with some bands, and they were doing backyard parties. And somehow Sublime linked up with HR, and then they played a show at Bogart's.
Sublime, back in '92, ended up playing with HR at Bogart's. We were the opening act, and it was myself, Eric, and Brad, who were Sublime at the time. And actually, Miguel was on stage as well, like in Sublime during that period.
So the promoter, Steve Zapata, he said, oh, I got a gig for you guys. It's HR. HR can make it, but the band can't. You know, he wanted to come read poetry or try to do something like that, but I don't think that'll sell tickets. And I was like, well, wait, so he can make it, but his band can't? He's like, yeah, a lot of good that does us, right? And I go, well, actually, that does us some good. I go, we know a lot of them songs. We play a lot of them songs. Like, in our set right now as it sits, like, we could probably back him.
I was so excited. I ran up to HR and Brad too. We were just like, hey, can we play this? Can we play that? I remember I asked him if we could play House of Suffering, and he told me I could have it.
I met some youngsters in California, Crabbeteers, Al and Jamie and his brother, Andy.
It was a time when HR was still on top of his game. He was still pretty strong physically and mentally. He loved surfing. You know, he loved the water. He was quite aquatic. He spent a lot of time too in Solana Beach, North San Diego County. He had some friends there, and you know, he would just kind of bounce back and forth. He never had a problem, you know, picking up a bag, picking up a pack, and you know, moving around a lot. But I can tell you, there was times like backstage before a show where we wouldn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what Joe we were going to get up on stage. There were times where it was like, you know, the guy was gone, okay? The guy was totally, absolutely, and all hurled in a sweat. And we'd be backstage ready to perform. And then he would literally go through these psychoses of hearing people and you know, people come in and turning the lights off, everyone be quiet. And we're sitting here, the three of us, just praying to the good Lord Almighty, you know, I just want to go home. I just want to make it home. I just want to make it through this night, you know. And then he turned the light on. Okay, we're all right.
You know, I think that Joseph was a little bit, maybe had some like schizoaffective or something. I don't know. My stepdad is a neurologist. He's retired now, but he wanted to go see my dad, you know, but wasn't able to make that happen, you know. I still feel really guilty about it to this day, you know.
We got the band signed to Epic with Israel Justified singing. So we were doing that.
When I sang HR songs, I wanted to honor HR. I wanted to sound like him. This is Joe's songs. This is your songs, and I'm not gonna sing them like me. I'm gonna sing them like him. I love Raphael, you know, I love him, man. He is the heights, you understand? This man is the heights.
It was a good year and a half. It was a real band with a real record, and everybody got along pretty well and toured and toured and toured. Did a lot of touring. And So it was Bad Brains the way it's sort of supposed to be. It's the way it's supposed to be. It wasn't HR though. I mean, Israel's Israel.
Someone else went ahead and did it. He tried it and he came up with a few interesting ideas. But in between that time that he was doing that, I did get a chance to visit LA.
H was in California, and we went to a Beastie Boys show. He met Madonna's A&R cat, and dude asked him what would it take to get the Bad Brains to record again. So that's when we pulled H back in and tried to do the album God of Love, and did the album God of Love.
I was at Lollapalooza, and I was backstage, and HR was there. And I saw him, and I walked up to him and introduced myself. He said, "Oh, let me have your number." And I gave him my number, and I realized on one side of the paper, it said Adam Yauk, and it had his number. And I thought, oh, they're probably trying to sign him too. And so I immediately got on it. Then I went and met with HR and talked to him about it, and getting the band back together. And then I reached out to Rick Ocasek to see if he would be down to get back in action. And my favorite album of theirs he produced, and so I thought we'd get them back together, the original guys with the original producer of that album, and he was up for it. And so sort of like all the stars were aligned, and we were off and running.
We had rented a house in Beverly Hills, recording out there in California and staying in this house there.
We had like a lovely house off Laurel Canyon Drive, 2-story, lovely little cul-de-sac, beautiful red carpet, Madonna. Like, it was just ridiculous.
Just really good vibe. Great album cover. Everything was coming together.
After the recording of the album, we had to find him a new home. He had the money due to that record deal to live wherever pretty much he wanted in LA. He said that he wanted to live in West Hollywood, so he found his own place, and it was a multi-story building that had all walks of life in there. So there was, prostitutes, there was drug addicts, there was a mixture of people in that apartment. But it was, there was no kitchen, it was just like a bed. And this is, how I understand HR's lived most of his life that way. It's just very simple, everything's very simple.
There are a few moments where I started getting glimpses of HR's other side. It was quite concerning, and he'd go in and out of this other side.
Yeah, I mean, he had a cash advance from Maverick, and he needed a vehicle, and he decided he wanted to buy a limousine.
He calls me, and he says, I'm at a car dealership, and I'm gonna buy a car, but they need to know that I have someone validating that I can pay for this car. It's a used car. Puts me on the phone with the guy, and the guy says, hello? I go, yeah, hi, I work at the record label, and he's an artist on the label, and I go, can I ask you what kind of car is he getting? And they said he's getting a limo. It was like a 1978 stretch limo. And I go, can you put him back on the phone, please? And he puts him back on the phone, and I go, HR, you're buying a limo from 1978? And he said, yeah, it's beautiful. He ended up buying the car. He had that limo. Actually, he took me to lunch once in the limo. I sat in the back of the limo, and he looked back at me and he said, I hope one day one of my artists can drive me in a limo to lunch. I didn't have the education, any experience. I probably still don't, but at that time, I definitely didn't have any experience on how to deal with his psychoses. And we went to Canada for the first, for the opening of the Beastie Boy tour. They got the opening slot for the whole tour. Next thing we know, he got into some sort of, he got into a fight, physical fight with his manager, Anthony County. And he pulled this whole wad of hair in his hand. I mean, it was, he was losing it.
He just got violent, and that was that. That's what he was going to do instead. It's a shame.
I was so upset that, these guys came together. They're a beautiful group of guys, musically unbelievable. The Beastie Boys supporting them, which is, I mean, you can't, you know, it's a dream to have them say, you know, I'm going to support these guys. And on your first night, just not even make it to the stage. So that was the beginning of the end.
HR came back within days saying that he was sorry it had happened. So he wanted to start up again, and the Beasties were willing to let the band come back. And toured with the Deftones till we got to Lawrence, Kansas. It was over. So he clocked a kid in the audience who was bullying his girlfriend, but he clocked him with a mic stand.
I was in the crowd watching, and all of a sudden, I just, like, right in the middle of a set, I just saw a mic stand go up, and boom, you know.
But he was definitely bullying this girl, and HR wouldn't have it, so. He nearly killed the kid, but he didn't kill him.
The cops came in, and they pretty much stopped the show, and then I remember him walking out in handcuffs, and me just sitting there, and just going like, what's going on? But the show was over, the tour was over, and the next day we were driving from the Midwest back to California to come home.
And I think, I'm not certain, but I thought I saw somebody pull out a gun. And so I picked up the microphone and slammed him on the head with it. And then later on, I had to do about 30 days behind bars. I kind of regretted breaking up for those few years. I wish we had kind of stayed together now, because those were some very educational years of my life. Mm-hmm.
Apparently, what I learned later, and we didn't know at the time, was that HR had unfortunately been given certain drugs and lost the plot.
Well, there's no point in being angry about it. HR wasn't predictable. I knew that from the beginning. We knew that going in. I mean, I knew it at that point, especially in '95.
To me, that was the end of it. That's the end of the story for me with HR, the end of the story for me with the Bad Brains.
Something maybe psychological was going on there?
Yeah.
And did you guys try to like get him help?
Sure.
And
you can't, you know, you sit down, you can get somebody an appointment. They can go to the appointment, they can get nothing done or get something done. It's up to them. He could have had absolutely the very best people in the world. Because they were there in LA. Those people, you know, there are psychologists and stuff that are brilliant who work with people who are really incredibly creative and brilliant, like HR. Creativity is such a secret event or mysterious occurrence or something like that, you know. So you can't necessarily put your finger on it and know what the fuck is going on, you don't. You don't. Sorry.
You are the pilot of your own soul, and in your hands lies the destiny peacefully to control the elements so that you will be able to live in heaven and fly the way the angels fly. Peace and love, children, and remember, the Bible is the best source of information when you're all alone. Peace and love, children.
So I'm driving along Hollywood Boulevard and I see H, looking at the sky. I said, oh shit, HR's in town, So I knew there was, some issues that, maybe he needed to come in, and hang out for a minute. So I said, HR, listen, if you need to come in, come over sometime, clean up, you're more than welcome. So yeah, don't worry about it. So I figured I'd see him in a week or two, Very next day he was there. He's like, I'm gonna take you up on your offer, man. It was only 1 block from Hollywood Boulevard. He was still there, but now he had a place he can lay his head, man, and lay low and get better. I think that's what he needed, a place to rest, to chill out. It helped him get back on his feet. Because you don't want to see that, man, seeing a legendary person of his status, a punk rock legend, man, just no freaking way, man. Once I got to know him and I started figuring him out, like when it was good to talk about things, when it was not good to talk about things. So we basically got to know his little dark side, his little mood swings, or he didn't want to be bothered. If we had a show booked, he didn't want to play it, we just left it at that. I heard a female voice on the phone saying, hey, can I speak to HR? I want to invite him to a show. I said, H, is someone for you? He gets on the phone. Next day, he's at the Hollywood Palladium. He's back on the stage.
When Brad died, we did a benefit show with Golden Voice at the Palladium. It was a benefit for charity, so it was just a big deal. It was a big deal, though. For us, it was cool, and we had put together the Long Beach Dub All-Stars as kind of a tribute. And then we pull into the parking lot. And sure as can be, like, there he is. HR standing there in the parking lot, man, all in white. Said, sorry for your loss. And might have been Eric who was like, you ready to jam? Or are you just going to hang out? And, HR with that smile. He's like, well, I'm here to jam.
I remember HR being a real heavy, landmark person being there because Brad looked up to him, Eric looked up to him, we all looked up to him as a leader, and for him being there, it was just it solidified a lot of things to us.
It was all of a sudden we got all this credibility for pulling HR in, but we didn't realize that he wasn't doing that good, When we started to work on our album, we definitely wanted to work with Joe, with HR.
We bring HR in to just kind of write in the studio. So we had the song together for him, and he went and sat behind the piano and had his microphone set up.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He was set like an arrow. That was such a good time, playing music. We had HR with us on tour, it was incredible.
We were all going to be on a tour bus together, but he wanted to just have his own car, so his tour manager rented a car, and they followed us all across the country behind us. It was a trip.
He was on the road with us, and sometimes he'd do songs, sometimes he wouldn't. Which character are we gonna get today? We're gonna get the DC guy, it's on like popcorn, or we're gonna get the Rosta or the English guy.
It made us as proud as could be, to have him there, whether he was in full 100% or not, he still did his job, he still sang, he still killed it,
Ross Michael used to tell him, don't be called bad brains, call good brains. That's Ross Michael.
You say bad brains? What is bad brains? We don't want nothing bad, man. Everything for good. What is badness? Badness brings sadness. You see, love brings happiness.
Soul Brain started because we wanted to try to appease H with, changing the name. We wanted to change the name. He didn't want that connotation of bad, even though we all know bad meaning good is tough, but he didn't feel as though people thought that's what it meant. This is when Noel came into play. So we called it the Soul Brains,
Took me a year to reunite the band from when HR just said to me out of the blue, I wasn't even pushing the issue at all with them on something like that. he came out of the blue, it seemed to me, and said, hey, let's reunite the brains and let's call it the soul brains. They had some history that wasn't as positive as you'd like it to be, and they were a bit apprehensive about reuniting. And it took some convincing, but we did it. Instead of doing a one-off, we ended up doing a whole West Coast tour. And that went well, and we didn't stop. He'd go out on his little adventures and stuff. You know, he had a video camera for a while, and he took all these videos of him just roaming around in the subways and like singing his music and observing things, and it's kind of interesting. I wonder if he still has that footage.
One love. The Soul Brains Human Rights Show with a new soul. Yay! Well, brothers and sisters, this is what it looks like when a person is reborn again. Bye, Chala.
We played a show with them in Japan, and in Japan, some of the shows go really late, and Bad Brains weren't going on till like 5 in the morning, and all the kids in Japan are like laying over the barricade, they're falling asleep. All the American bands were so hyped, they're gonna see Bad Brains right up front. And me and my wife, they were super jet lagged, we were so tired, we said, you know what, I don't know if we're gonna be able to make it up, let's go back to the hotel and chill for a little bit. As we're coming in the hotel, the elevator opens up and HR comes out with like a bird cage on his head and like a guitar or something. And he looked at me and my wife, and he's like, peace, said something like peace and blessings. And he looked at me and my wife were so exhausted. It almost seemed like he floated out of the elevator, I swear to God, man. And he floated towards us, and he said something like peace and blessings. And me and my wife looked at each other like, we're staying. And we jumped in the same shuttle van with him, went back and saw the Bad Brains. Something about him is surreal, you know, even if he's on stage playing the guitar that's not plugged in, I don't care. It's HR, and he's amazing.
He would just come out and just stand there and smile at the crowd, but not smile at the crowd, hi, how you doing? Smile at the crowd like beyond the crowd. He was on some other crowd, you know, and coming from another place. And then while the band was playing with their full spirit and full soul, the Bad Brains playing, the singer was not who he used to be.
I mean, I've heard people say that you don't know if it's HR just being HR, being out of his mind, or if he's crazy, if he's not crazy, if it's an act. I've heard it all, like, yo, HR is, oh, dude, he's crazy, he's not all there. And then like, oh, he's just high. Or no, dude, he's fooling everybody. He's playing a trick on everybody, you know what I mean? So you don't know what, there really is this mystique.
And then when the Bible stuff came in, that was really like the Rosta stuff. And that was weird, because he got really, and I felt really messianic in a weird way.
So groundbreaking and so incredible, and I think that that creativity comes with a bit of madness.
What people call mental illness today, in the old days, they were called shaman. Now what is HR? A prophet, a man who leads people spiritually. He is a shaman. And of course the shaman, the man, they're supposed to be sitting around crazy out of their minds. They're the shaman, they're not dealing in this world. He's a shaman.
And some may say thine is the glory, and thine is the kingdom of the power. Forever. Hallelujah. One love. Peace and harmony. Just like that.
I didn't exactly know what was going on. Rumor had it that he was going from place to place.
He was living on the streets pretty much. He living in different people's homes and stuff like that.
Man, he was struggling, man. You know, he was kind of like living out there and carrying on, and I don't know what the hell he was doing out there, you know.
Is it drug related?
Don't know. Never knew. Didn't know. I mean, should have maybe known, but didn't know.
You know, I never saw any of that. I never saw, everybody said that he was doing hard drugs, but man, I never saw one time, not one drug, man.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be just a physical, a real thing. It's a problem. It doesn't have anything to do with drugs. Because I never knew him to be a druggy person.
When he has money, he gives it away. When he does have money, he would tip the girls from the Mercato $100, the waitresses. I think he just said, fuck it. He's free. He's where he wants to be. He's walking the streets of Babylon.
There wasn't no particular one place that I could live. I did have to keep on the move, and people were always just telling me, well, you can't stay here, you gotta move off our front porch, or off our steps, or off our sidewalk, or off our backyard, or, you know, this kind of thing. So I would have to get up. After bouncing around, hitting my head against the wall, getting cramps in my legs. I said, I can't take it no more, dear child, help me, I would pray. And the Lord said, okay, I'll provide a way for you.
Brothers and sisters, it has really been a true experience and its own laptop counter. Yes, it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright, baby. Oh yeah. Now we're gonna take a look at the location where Styles on Computer is located. And remember, we deliver.
Yes, and the children of Israel improved and grew in wisdom and prosperity. And the light of God shone upon their faces, and their hearts were lifted up in triumphant victory. And forever endeavored were the people of Selassie and Jehovah blessed in the redemptive Christ-like consciousness of the eternal brood of love, 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 love.
Hey, you come back here. Get over here right now.
Yes, I'd like to introduce my good friend, the Holy Spirit. And we've been working for years. He's the one that made it possible for me to be here today. He's a champion bubbler too, right? Right on, right? Yeah, you want to. They're my friends, you know, they love me. Sometimes they turn invisible, though. But every once in a while, if you truly want to see them and you're quiet and nice, and no ism and schisms, they'll let you see them. Okay, you're free to go, brother. Thank you.
What are their names?
Oh, well, one's called Peter, one's called Thomas. Thomas and Peter, yeah. Or sometimes Mike and Jenny, or Wendy, or Jennifer.
So you can see invisible things that we can't see sometimes?
Oh, no, I can't, but they can. They can see the invisible stuff. I hear them. When they're invisible, I can't see them. Oh, I can hear them, you know. They say things like, dude, why don't you just shit eat? Then I just shut up, you know.
Is that what happens? You have auditory hallucinations? You hear them?
No, no. They speak in the spiritual world. When I go on that stage, I'm not bad at all, but I have to pretend, you know. You got to pretend to be somebody, you know. Just like in wrestling, you know, they're not really, they're just, okay.
So
you're a liar.
Are you pretending to be HR?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Well, then who are you really?
Oh, who am I truly? Well, actually, I'm the king of England.
With the purple stream and the supernatural beings, supernaturalistic kings and queens, yeah. With the purple stream and the supernatural beings, in the burning bright, at the shining light. With the purple stream and the supernatural beings, supernaturalistic kings and queens.
It's been mostly like probably the way that you feel finding him in a warehouse in Baltimore. I've been out on the road with him, all over the world with him, and it doesn't make you feel, you know, you don't feel like happy about what's going on. You want him not to be so isolated by it. Hopefully he'll come out of that isolation, because that's what it is. That's what love is, really. It's like the absence of isolation. And he's always talked about that. He sings about that. But I don't know that he gets to experience it that much.
Maybe there's a chemical imbalance or something, drug-induced, whatever, or shit catches up with you, you know, from prior drug use, whatever, man. I really couldn't tell you. I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, so I can't really analyze it to the point where, you know, it would kind of make any sense.
I just wish one day, man, that I don't hear another crazy-ass, man, a crazy-ass HR story.
Hi, darling. Remember me? I'm quite certain you did. Oh, please don't worry. You're right.
Please, I do wish you worship me now.
I have no problem with an artist who wants to rock the boat and, you know, push down barriers, and I don't have a problem with that. His problem was more what could probably be called schizophrenic. That's just one piece of it. I'm sure it's much deeper than that.
Every time I see him, I can still see
he's in there, you know, but the imbalance, the chemical imbalance, is suppressing the real Joe.
It's hard not to look at HR and not know that he's in real strife. He's in real mental strife. I think he's been hearing voices and things in his head for a very long time. A very long time. And eventually, the amplifier got turned up and the voices have been getting louder and louder and louder and louder.
We all see, you know, what's going on and he needs the help, but when you're in that situation, the decision has to come from you.
I think we all need to like truly reevaluate how we look at one another as human beings when somebody's not well in their mind.
No one would complain about a performance of HR's now if they weren't doing shows. So maybe the question is, you know, should he be doing shows? I don't know.
Everybody's got their little crazy shit about them. But if your heart is good and your intentions are good, then God will make a way for you somehow.
Thank you very much. I heard what you said. Don't we never have fun? You think my music is don't you never have fun? You can have fun and you can enjoy your music. Well, look, I'm gonna go inside your dressing room and you be careful and go on and have a good time. And thanks again. I'll see you as soon as possible. Bye, everybody. Peace and love. Thank you. Come again. Yes. I break through. No pleasure.
I think he still has a song to sing, you know? It's like, you're not done till you're done, you know? It's like, he means a lot to a lot of people, and, you know, a lot of people might talk shit and be like, oh, he's crazy, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, everybody has problems and, you know, everybody needs help.
I was a fan of his before I met him, and I started just showing up where he was. Just because I was fascinated by him, I don't know, I just wanted to know him. It was very soon after I met him and started spending time with him that, well, I recognized right away that there was some psychiatric issues. It was very obvious to me. People would say, oh, he's just eccentric, oh, he's just being a rock star, oh, this, oh, that. And I said, you guys are not facing reality. Like, he really needs some more help. But it was partly him being resistant to that. That was a big part of it. You know, I know there were other people in his life who had tried before to get him to go see a doctor, and he just wouldn't. So HR and I had only been officially dating for a few months when we decided to get married. I married him for the reasons you generally marry someone, because I loved him and I wanted to be with him. And also because I knew that if we were legally married, I could give him more help. I could add him to my insurance, get him to the doctor, all that stuff. So we got dressed up and we got married. And it's kind of a bittersweet day for me. He was not in the best mental state that day. He wouldn't take his sunglasses off. But it was still happy in the end. So when the Bad Brains were going to play Lollapalooza in South America, HR was not in a great mental state. I wasn't real happy about the fact he was going. So he went and he did the shows, and they were horrible. He was obviously hallucinating on the stage during the shows.
Some of the stuff that he was paying attention to wasn't happening. Wasn't actually happening. It was just his imagination.
So he came back. I think it was the moment when the rest of the band said, this is enough, we can't put him on a stage like this anymore. I sat down, I went on whatever psychiatric website, and I read him all of the signs and symptoms of schizophrenia. I went down the list, I read them all to him. I was like, you do all of those. This is you. I know there's a stigma attached to it, and nobody wants to admit that about themselves, but I want you to know that I love you no matter what, and this is what's going on with you, and there are things out there that can help you be able to function better for yourself and for us as a couple. And then Anthony County had some conversations with him too.
That's when he realized that he needed help. I mean, to me, that was the first time that he basically was talking about another universe, and I was like, if there's one thing happening here, you have to know, this is only one universe. Whatever you're imagining somewhere, it's just still in this universe. We're all in the same universe, that's what's going on.
It was horrible over there by that warehouse. I didn't like living over there. And that's when I started having those headaches. I didn't want to have those headaches. I didn't want to live in that warehouse. I didn't want to go through any of that kind of stuff.
It took a while for it to sink in, and then one day you said, okay, I'll do it. I'll go to the doctor. So once he started taking the medication, the doctor told us the longer he took it, the better his symptoms would be, which has definitely turned out to be true. I haven't seen him in psychosis in a long time.
It's true, he's a survivor. He's surviving, and he got through it. And I don't know, I suppose it has to do with the fact that he does recognize that there are people who love him and know who he is and care about him. Whether we can help him or not is like another. He knows it's up to him more than it's up to us.
To make a long couple of years shorter, he's completely dedicated. He's not going to stop taking that medication. Like, he really sees the benefit that it has for him.
When I went to that hospital and got myself together, that's when a big change came into my life. It's good that we are able to do the things that we always wanted to do, and that means changing your life and being reborn again. And I can tell you now, my life is so much better that I did that. That's what we got to remember. With the faults that mankind may have, we all can be repented, reborn again, and keep on trying, and God will come into our life and help us to be better human beings.
He lived the life of a rocker, a hardcore punk, and still doing it. And people don't understand, you know? He's not living in a fancy house. He's not driving a fancy car. He's HR, you know what I mean? Human rights. And he's living his story.
People need to know how important this guy is. The fact that he got help at all is almost impossible.
As troubled as he may be, he's strangely free. You know, he's just living. And still a visionary. Still deeply creative. Still answering the muse, like still playing music.
The love I'm having, I'm hard. It flows over his sickness. You understand? Yes, it flows over his sickness.
HR is my brother, man. You know, we're family. So, you know, there's nothing that's going to destroy that. You know, he was a serious leader back in the days, man, you know.
He was real for people who needed him to be real. And that's much more important. That's more important than anything else. And HR was the protector of the spirit of it. And in order to protect that spirit, he had to kill the dragon over and over.
I was given a responsibility to be the leader, but I had to also be a human being, or what was considered an angel of the light.
HR, I love you, man. This is Angelo. And we gonna keep hope alive and thrive. Got it? Good. I love you, man. Peace.
I'm just happy to see him. I'm glad that he's still alive. One of the greatest frontmen ever.
Ready? HR is a legend.
HR, you know, the one and only, the OG. HR, human rights, Joseph, you know, representing human rights always, you know.
HR, Joseph, is definitely a living legend. That's easy. Oh, you're sitting there with a fucking movie camera filming me talking about the man. He's definitely a living legend.
He's always going to be one of your favorite artists. You go on stage and ask whoever you think is alive, ask them who they think is alive, and if they know what time it is, HR's name is going to be on top of that.
Greetings, Brother Joseph. Rastafari, Haile Selassie I. Good seeing you.
Living legend. You know what I mean?
You to love me. I never, ever worry. It doesn't matter anymore. It's time for us to rally around.
I'd like to give a big salute to my comrade and a leader, HR. He's a legend.
True living legend, true inspiration, the best damn singer I've ever seen, period. Unpronounced, there's no word for him, basically, other than amazing.
HR is living legend, 100%.
No matter how much recognition HR gets, it's never going to be enough. HR is a living legend. He's punk rock royalty.
There's something about him that's magical, super inspiring, and he's a legend. He's a living legend.
All of us aspire to be that dude, you know, and he got it. He always had it. He's the greatest singer I've ever met in my life.
HR, a trailblazer, a living legend.
He's a living legend because because of the fact that he, you know, sparked what is now modern day punk rock.
peace and love, and we appreciate all that you've given us and all that you've shown us and all that you've taught us and continue to teach us. Thank you.
Hey man, we did it, boys and girls. We did
Shine it ever through the night. For in his light, there's no darkness. And in his love, as you know, Joe, is forever one. Bless. Dada.